Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me in the STEAM studio. My name is Stacy. I'm a retired teacher, and this channel is about sharing what I've learned and my observations from my classroom. Often I do project-based videos on here, but today's going to be a little bit different. And I often make the statement on this channel that it is about children, but it's not for children. This is more a channel for parents and grandparents and teachers and those who love and work with children. And it's all about raising healthy kids. What I'm going to share today is a little bit different than my other videos. Some of the content that I'm going to share with you may be disturbing, but I hope that you will stay with me and look at what I have to show you and listen to what I have to say. But please make sure that there are no children around when you're watching. And I hope that you will stay with me till the end. Again, everything I offer is my own observations, and I want you to draw your own conclusions, but I hope that you will join me today. Thank you. Before I share some of the things with you that I've seen in my classroom regarding children's art, I just want to emphasize that I am not anti-technology. I use technology every day, as most people do in the world today. I've used it for many years and I've watched it develop and change. I don't keep up with it like the younger generations do, but I'm definitely not anti-technology. There are a lot of good things about it. It helps us communicate. It helps us to share things. It helps us to learn in lots of different ways. Some of the not so good things are it can tend to create laziness, and it's affected the quality of relationships a lot over the years. So let's talk about now what I've seen in my classroom, because this is really, this is the content and the reason that I started my YouTube channel, because I'm so concerned about the things I saw in my classroom that I have to get, the Lord has compelled me to get this information out to parents and others who care for children. And I take that responsibility seriously. So again, I'm going to go over some of the art, what the objective was in the lesson. I'm going to show you an example that is above average, one that is average, and then I'm going to show you an example of a student who spends lots of times playing video games specifically. So this is a kindergarten project. It was called Penguins in Perspective, and the objective was to show how things at the front or the bottom of the paper are bigger because they're up closer. Things in the midground or the middle are smaller because they're farther away. And then things in the background are the smallest because they're very far away. So in addition to grasping those concepts, I also give students lots of freedom about what they want to add as far as details to their artwork. And this student did an above average job because some of the details are just really interesting and things that I did not see in anybody else's artwork. So this is a really high level artwork by a kindergartner. This one is also pretty high level because this student made the decision not to put land, but they have all of their penguins in the water, but they still have the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. I don't think they had finished coloring yet. They have interesting ideas about some of their details too. So this is still pretty high level for kindergarten. This one is pretty average. They did get the concepts, foreground, middle ground, background. They did a really nice job of coloring. Not a whole lot of different ideas about things to add, details to add, but that's okay. This is very good and absolutely gets a good recommendation because they were on. They could see it. They got the concept. The next two I'm going to show you are of students who play lots and lots of video games, and it's probably used as a digital babysitter. I sorry to have to use that term, but I do see a lot of that, and it's really having an impact on students' developing brains. So this student, you can tell, kind of got the concept. Here's foreground, middle ground, background. They got that. But there's all these other lines and things going on that just kind of show that their mind is racing. And I think it's hard for them to slow down or actually speed up their hand to keep up with their brain. And that's why it looks kind of confusing and chaotic. This is another student who plays lots of video games and spends lots of time in that world. And you can see it's even more chaotic than the last. They do have a little bit, maybe, of understanding with the foreground, middle ground, and background, but there's so much confusion going on, it's really kind of hard to tell. Okay, this is another kindergarten project. This objective, the other examples I have are a little bit different as far as what the lesson itself was, but just show you an example of how this student did get the shapes really well. They got some overlapping. They filled everything in with color. They have a horizon line. They understood the lesson very well. And I will say also on these lessons with the kindergartners, they're a guided lesson, which means I take them through it step by step, one step at a time. I don't explain it and then just leave it up to them. I do each step with them to make sure that they are understanding what we're doing. Okay? So for this one, the lesson's a little different where you can see there's a line in the middle. That's supposed to be there, just showing two different pumpkins. They still have the horizon line in the background. This one's kind of interesting because it went from kind of average on the first one and improved to above average on the second drawing. This one's pretty average. You can tell that they were listening and they understood what we were doing. They got the concept. Okay, this is a student who plays a lot of video games. Really hard to tell what their understanding is. They got the pumpkin shape, but they've got the horizon line, but there's a lot of floating pumpkins and extra lines and extra activity that I think is just what's going on in their brain. Their brains are going so fast and processing so much information with the technology that it's affecting their processing skills. And that's what I see a lot. Here's another one. This one got the line in the middle. They have a little bit of a pumpkin shape, but they're kind of turned in different directions. They're floating, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And the reason I'm showing a lot of kindergarten to begin with, it's not all that I have, but kindergarten is where we see a lot of the biggest differences in skills and abilities and how much they've been worked with at home before they came to school, and whether or not they're on the autism spectrum. There are a lot of things that show up in kindergarten, so that's why I have more examples of kindergarten than the other grades. This is my last kindergarten example. This project was to draw a house using shapes, putting the shapes together to create a house or building, adding the horizon line, adding a background, and this is an above average example. You can see they really did a good job drawing. They did a good job coloring. Everything's in good proportion except for the little person laying down, but maybe he fell. It's always fun to see what kindergartners put in their work. This is an average one. You can tell they also got the house, the building, the horizon line, the background. I like that they added their family. The coloring is very, very done hurriedly, and that can also be from playing a lot of video games, because the technology in playing video games actually speeds up the brain, and it rewires the brain for speed and not for content. And that is from a book that I'm going to be sharing with you at the end, that I've gotten a lot of information about the brain and the developing technology out of, but most of what I've gotten is what I've seen firsthand in my classroom. So the next one is a student on the same project who plays lots of video games. And with this, it's just a lot of confusion. It looks like a lot of static and noise and just activity going on. You can kind of see a little bit of a house shape here, but that's really about it. All right, this is a first grade project, and this is one I actually have posted a video on already on my channel called Mystery Drawing. So what I did with this was I guided the students through the drawing of the lion, but they didn't know what they were drawing until closer to the end. So everybody drew a lion following the same steps, step by step, stopping, making sure they were understanding, they were keeping up, and then they were allowed to add whatever background they wanted to. That was up to them. I did say if it's an outside picture, we always talk about the horizon line because that helps with perspective, but this is an above average drawing from a first grade student. This is very average, and when I say average, I mean it's still good. It's the expectation. This is what I'm looking for. The above average has just gone on beyond that. So they've got the lion, they added their own little lion using the same steps that they had learned already, the horizon line. Looks like there's two suns, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. You can tell what this is a picture of. This is also very average. I'm sorry about the dark spots. Some of the photography is not great, and I don't have the best printer, but I think it still makes the point. You can see they have the lion. They've added other details, other animals, a bird, horizon line. They're starting to add texture and details on the lion. So this is a very good average example as well. And the next couple are going to be students who play a lot of video games. Now this particular student is extremely bright and smart, but he plays video games constantly. And you can see he started out pretty well. He got the lion's face and mane. He had a little bit more trouble with the body. And then when it came to the background and doing his part, it's hard to tell what's going on. He got the horizon line, but he didn't understand that it's supposed to stop at either side, so it looks like it's going behind. I guess these are clouds, but to me they look like a lot of static and noise, and he's just has a hard time slowing his brain down enough to do this project. And the next one's even more concerning. This is a student that plays a lot of video games, and you can see the lion. I can see the horizon line. He actually did stop and make it go behind, but he didn't finish it, and then all the scribbling and other things starts. And kind of what I feel like happens is they're able to kind of watch what I'm doing enough to get the shapes and make it recognizable, but then that's about as long as they can hold it together before their brain starts controlling their hands to go like their brain is, and it shows up on the paper. And this is the same one after he colored it. This is his coloring example. Okay. The next grade I'm going to show you is third. I don't think I have an example for second grade right now, or fourth, but I'm going to show you third and fifth. And this assignment was for the students to write their name using either bubble or block letters, which means just a letter that has a space inside of it. They got to choose, and then they got to do their name however they wanted to. They got to come up with the theme or the idea of how they wanted to decorate it. And this is just a really high level idea as far as putting his letters on a conveyor belt. He's got the screws and the hammer and the different tools, factory. And so this is really, really high level. He did a great job. This one, this is where I'm going to add content to what I've seen in the art. So I'm going to stop for just a minute before I talk about his and talk about the way the content started to change at a concerning level in 2020. So that's after we came back from the shutdown, and that's when I saw a lot of my students go dark. And I worked with another art teacher, and we co-taught some, and we taught by ourselves some. But what we were seeing in the classroom and in the children's art was so concerning that she decided to retire. She couldn't deal with it anymore. And at one point, she even made the decision, well, I don't think she followed through, but she was at the point where she was going to take the color red out of the classroom because it was just being used as blood in the children's artwork. So you can see a lot of blood here, a bloody dagger, the ghost, the scary face, and the content and the skill level are both average on this one, I would say. But this is going to start getting a little bit more into the concerning content as well as some of the technical things that we were seeing. Same thing with this little girl. She's actually pretty high level with her art, but everything is bloody, dismembered. There's a bloody dagger, and this is from a very popular video game called Among Us, which I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with, because it looks very cute and innocent and cartoony, but the content is hidden. It's supposed to look innocent, and then when you get into the content, it's not. And I'm going to do a video soon talking about specific video games and what the content is. But it's really important as adults and stewards of the children that we are researching and paying attention and know what they are getting into, what they are looking at, what's going into their brains, what kind of programs they're using. And that's an interesting word, program. Think about it. Think about what that means. This is a third grader who, this is the same project. He just decided to do his name in bubble letters. This side is what he was doing on his own. And this is when I sat with him one-on-one. And every time he got distracted, I redirected him back to what he was doing. And it took a long time because there was a lot of redirection, but he was able to do it with me helping him one-on-one and constantly bringing his attention back to what we were doing. Okay. This is another third grade project. This is called neurographic art. And this is one I learned about in 2020 because I was looking for projects that I could do to help the kids calm down their minds and help them to focus and help them to slow down and really heal trauma is what this is good for. Because we all had trauma in 2020. And then the content in the video games and a lot of the movies they're watching adds more trauma because they're scary and dark and violent. And so this is a good activity, and this is what my next video is going to be about, is creating neurographic art. And this is an exceptional example from a third grader, above average. This is one that's average. She did a good job. She got the connections, which is the point of this we'll talk about next week. She's coloring with a different material than the last one, and she's doing a pretty good job. And so this is a really nice average example of neurographic art. And the next one is going to be from a girl who plays video games constantly. It looks like her brain's on fire. She could not understand the concept. She couldn't even do a line from one side of the folder to the other. And that's not to criticize her. This is concern. I'm concerned about her brain. I'm concerned about what's going on. I had other students. I remember one boy in particular who played a lot of video games. He was a fifth grader. And doing the neurographic art, you'll see when I show you next week, it's very simple lines, but you have to focus in order to get it. And he cried because he couldn't do it. So that just adds to my concern. Okay, so the next ones we're going to look at are the last ones are fifth graders, and they are not about skill level at all. They are about content. So I did a project with the kids called Faces in a Crowd, where they had to draw different ovals at different heights, and then each one was going to be turned into a person, and they had to listen to a description that I gave them. They only had to add the things in the description. Anything else they added was their ideas. So this is probably the worst one I saw, but there was a lot of scariness. There was a lot of kids wanting to do blood, which we didn't let them. But the description of this first one was that the person is smiling and wearing a hat. That's all they had to do. They got to make all the other decisions. So this person put woohoo and he's pouring something into his mouth. I don't know, maybe it's a soda. We'll just say it's a soda. But I don't know for sure. Based on the other things, it's probably not, but we'll just go with soda for now. This one says I'm evil. This guy says I'm drunk. And he's got a bottle in one hand and a pack of cigarettes in another. Oh, sorry about that. Let me fix it. All right, this is the other half of his drawing. It was on a long strip of paper. This one's doing an evil laugh. This one says, nobody likes you, failure. And this one says, emotional damage with a gun in their hand. And this last one probably bothers me most of all just because I'm an animal lover. I have pets. I've always cared for animals. And one of the choices that I had in my classroom for early finishers, when they were finished with the assignment, they could build, they could draw. I also had a basket full of coloring sheets if they wanted to do coloring sheets. And a lot of the coloring sheets were of animals because a lot of my students asked for that. So this one 5th grade girl, and she didn't seem, well, she seemed a little bit troubled, but more so because she seemed kind of neglected by the way she was dressed and her hair, things like that. But her personality didn't seem all that dark and unhappy. But what she did was she went over and she found a little dog, and this is how she colored it. Put a little hat and the eyes gouged out, bleeding. So I talked to her, I talked to a counselor about her, the counselor talked to her. She didn't seem to understand. She said it's only a pet, which of course concerned me as well. She didn't really seem to understand why it was inappropriate, but she agreed that she wouldn't do it again. But a few weeks later, I saw her working on this one. It's the exact same dog. All she did was change the material and the way that she did it. So those are just a few examples that really stood out to me when I was teaching and caused me concern. And I haven't known what to do with it or about it. I've prayed about it, and this is what God has led me to do, because sadly, I have talked to different parents about it, and nobody seems to care, or they don't understand. I did show these to my niece, and she said, you know, I've heard you talk about it, but I didn't really get it until I saw the art. So I'm hoping that by putting it out here on YouTube, that will happen. I hope that parents and grandparents and teachers and anybody who works with kids will hear the alarm, see the alarm, what's going on. Again, it's been not all since 2020, but 2020 really just exploded the darkness that I see happening in our children. And it makes me very sad because they've lost their innocence and they're being programmed with violence. I have heard numerous students, boys, say how much they enjoy violence. There's a lack of focus outside of technology. There's a lack of interest outside of technology. Motor skills are not being developed the way they used to be. I've seen an alarming increase in autism, ADHD, and suicidal ideation. Processing skills, they're having a hard time processing information. The ones that are on video games too much, who have too much time on the screens. I had some students that said they never go outside except at recess. They're having trouble with problem solving, and now AI is part of their curriculum, at least in the 5th grade. And so I just want to put this out there again. I really, really hope that this grabs your attention, that you'll pay attention, that you'll take it to the Lord, that you'll pray. If you are a parent who has let your child have a lot of time on video games and not known the danger or not known the content or not researched the content, this is not under condemnation. This is a warning. This is letting you know what I've seen. So hopefully you will start, that we all as adults will vet and research and know what our children are putting into their brains, because it's affecting them very negatively, and it makes me concerned and fearful for future generations. So I hope you will take this to heart. God makes it clear in the Bible that we have a great responsibility in stewarding the children, and I take that responsibility very seriously. So my channel is about not only exposing and showing you some things that need to be talked about, but about offering solutions. So the projects that I'm choosing to put on this channel help with this, if they're used correctly and if this is minimized. I'm not saying take everything away, but as with anything, balance is key. And in addition to the projects I'm doing, I wanted to share this book. Kind of got me started really paying attention, because I was seeing in my classroom things that go along with this book called The Digital Invasion. And this came out in 2015, so things have even changed a lot since then. The first smartphone came out in 2007, and the changes from then till now are just incredible. Again, a lot for good, but a lot of it is not for good, and we have to pay attention to which is which. So I'm going to put a link to this book in the description, and it talks about biological effects on the brain of the technology with the flashing lights and the changing scenes, and how that affects our eyes and our nervous system, because I know also that depression and anxiety have gone through the roof in people of all ages with the rise in technology and since 2020. So I hope this helps. I hope that you will pray about it, and let's do everything we can to take care of these children and future generations, because that's what God asks of us. And thank you for staying till the end. I hope you will take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.